You're taking yours off?
Oh, sorry. Okay, good. Okay. How you doing?
How to get in the mood.
All right, sit down.
will.
At first I want to, firstly, very quickly, it's my mother's birthday today, so will you wish her a happy birthday?
Happy birthday, Lucky.
What? Where is she? Everybody wish my mom a happy birthday. Just say happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Lucky has also been at all the 20 codes, and she's insulted my outfits every year. It's been great. No, I'm teasing. She's been a real help and has enjoyed it. So this is in 2015 when you were here, when you tried to kill me. This is, I don't know why I allowed you to do this. In any case, what I want to talk about mostly with you is cost plus. We've talked over the years. You were at the first code with Ted Leonsis, talking about sports and things like that. I'm going to ask as few sports questions as possible. I'll let Ina Fried do that. But what I want to do is talk about cost plus drug and sort of the impetus for it. So I'd love to check in on your progress. You've gotten a lot of praise. Everyone's like, thank God for Mark Cuban. You are sort of telling people everybody gets cheap weed kind of thing. But talk about the results. How do you feel right now about the results, and how do you measure success?
Well, in terms of how we feel, we're in our 3-year projection 7 months in. And if you just search for cost plus drugs in your Twitter or Facebook, whatever, you're going to see story after story after story. My medications were $2,000. Now I pay $39. I used to pay $800 a month. Now I pay $29 a month. It's just time and time again. And when, I mean, you know, I've gone through this procession where people knew me for the Mavericks, then they knew me for Shark Tank, and now I've gone places and people will just walk up and hug me, you know, and tell me a story about, you know, how cost plus drugs has changed their lives, because now they can finally afford their medication, and that's, you know, how do you replace that?
So what was the impetus for doing this? There are a lot of things you could do. I mean, you've seemingly bought a town in Texas. We'll get to that in a minute.
The reason was obvious. I mean, healthcare in this country is fucked up, and the pricing for medications is even worse. You know, to be in the United States of America in 2022 and continuously hear stories about how people have to choose between food or housing or medication or rationing their medications or going without, or people dying because they went, that's just insane. And so about 4 years ago, I got a cold email from Dr. Alex Oshmayansky, who was trying to start a pharmacy in Denver to deal with drug shortages. And he reached out to invest, and I was like, no, that's not the direction. You know, what we need is transparency and something people will trust, and can we save them a lot of money?
So wait, you get a lot of things. Why does this one stick out? You get, I mean, I'm sure you get.
Because this is the type of, when you can change people's lives like that. I mean, and not to make it sound so sappy and all this, but seriously, you know, if someone came up to you and you started talking, it was like, okay, here's a way for us to change a huge problem and make people's lives better. And you can probably, if not make money, at least break even doing it. Why wouldn't you? Because so much in healthcare right now is pushed off to charity and foundations, right? And they give a lot of money, and that's great, but it's a never-ending cycle of having to raise money to solve the problem. And here we can take a big part of that problem and not necessarily solve it, but make it a whole lot better.
So of the many things, again, you're offered, you thought this one was possible, or more possible, or would have more impact quicker?
More impact.
More impact.
Yeah, doing it, like I said, we've been shipping for 7 months, but we've been working on it going on 4 years.
4 years.
Because of all the regulatory requirements, you know, for pharmacies and different types of drugs and this and that. And so it took a while to get here. But I knew that once people started realizing the savings, right, they would tell everybody else.
Right, so viral, you're trying to get a sort of...
It's 100% viral. So if you have leukemia and you need this drug called imatinib, and you don't, think about how we deal with prescriptions in our lives, most of us, at least. You go to the doctor, it's, oh shit, I need this prescription, right? Okay, what's your local pharmacy? Then they write it. And then you go there, you hope your insurance covers, you don't know what your copay is, you don't know if you can afford your copay, you don't know if your insurance will even cover it, right? We've all been through that process. Now we come in and we start looking at it and saying, okay, we can sell that same drug that might have cost these leukemia patients anywhere from $2,000 to $9,000, or if you really search out, $200, and we could sell it. We started off selling it for $59, I think, then $39, and then the price, our volume goes up, the price goes down. I mean, how can you not do that?
So when you're thinking about that, just so you know, an estimated 18 million Americans couldn't pay for at least one drug from their doctor. According to Harvard Medical School researchers, Medicare could have saved 3.6, and Medicare is the biggest buyer of these drugs, $3.6 billion over 1 year if it had used yours.
And that's just 77 of our drugs. Yeah, that's just 77 of our drugs.
Right, right. So President Biden recently signed the Inflation Reduction Act, which allows Medicare to negotiate prices. Talk about the implications, because it doesn't apply to everybody.
No, I mean, it's not a bad thing, certainly. I mean, in 2026, I think it is, they'll be able to negotiate the top 10 drugs, and then a couple years later, top 20 drugs. But it's only for Medicare, Medicaid, and in certain circumstances.
And certain drugs.
Right, and just a limited number of drugs, and then there's everything else.
Right.
So it's a step in the right direction, but it's just a blip.
It's just a blip. So this, one of the things we're thinking about, I want to get to insurance companies first, but this is a very patient-initiated thing 100%. Versus,
yeah. So
that
the
seems
difference
problematic. That seems that you have to go and get the things that are critical to your health.
Well, I mean, a doctor's got to prescribe it at some level anyway.
Sure.
So with us, it's very simple. Your doctor says you need whatever it is. You go to costplusdrugs.com, you type it in, you look to see if we carry it. If we carry it, you see our cost. And then you see that we mark it up 15%. And because as of now, we're only mail order, we add a $3 pharmacy fee and a $5 shipping fee. And that's it. You get to know exactly what your costs are going to be forever.
Versus going to the drugstore.
Versus going to the, and you just don't know what your costs are going to be. And so, I mean, that simplicity is a big change versus the way it typically works is you'll get the prescription, they'll put it in for your local pharmacy. Your pharmacy is probably owned by one of the top 3 healthcare companies in the country, and it's also owned by so there's these big 3 where they own the insurance, the retail pharmacy, and these things called pharmacy benefit.
Right, explain that. I think they're called formularies, correct?
Yeah, well, that's the drugs that they carry. But the pharmacy benefit managers are kind of like the doorman at a bar that says, you know, I'll go out there and negotiate the price of the liquors for you, even though I'm just the doorman, and then I'm going to take a little vig from everybody that comes in.
So you want the higher?
Yeah, so they want higher prices across the board. And so with us, we exclude all that. We don't take insurance, and to some people, the initial thought was, well, that's problematic. The reality is, because these are generics as of now, our price for our generics is probably lower than your copay. And even if you're a Medicare Part D, we're probably lower than your copay. And so it's turning out that being just this cash pay without insurance is saving people astounding amounts of money.
So the insurance companies have no inclination to want to reduce prices because of these pharmacy benefit managers.
Right, because they own the pharmacy benefit manager and they own the big retail chains.
So they want the generics, correct?
Well, the pharmacy benefit managers work with branded drugs and generics, right? We started with generics because they're easier to access. So, and there's multiple manufacturers, and in some cases we can manufacture our own. We're building a manufacturing plant in Dallas.
I was gonna ask about that.
Right, and so we can make certain things. Because there's competition for the generic drugs, we can negotiate a better price. But the distortion is how it's priced to the patient. Even generics, the doctor will prescribe something that goes through your insurance that then goes to the preferred pharmacy. And when you get to the pharmacy, instead of saying, okay, what's the lowest price we can get you, they're getting this distorted wholesale average cost plus that distorts the price. We said, we're not going to deal with any of that.
So you don't ever think you're going to work with insurance companies? Are you talking
No, yeah, we're talking to them. We can work with them, but our requirement is they buy and they price everything at cost plus 15%.
Which they won't.
They will.
They will.
They're starting to, yeah.
Because?
Because they know they need to at some point. So there's the big 3 companies that own the pharmacy benefit managers, and there's everybody else. And all the everybody else's are looking for better options.
So you can work with them.
Yeah.
So, so one of the things that several doctors have mentioned to me is how do you integrate with Epic so they can pick it? Because doctors tend to pick the brand name, and I'll get to brand name in a second. But how do you integrate with all the, Epic is one of the...
Yeah, you just put in Mark Cuban Cost Plus Drugs.
Yes, I get that.
And then you put in the prescription.
Okay.
And then the...
they are now integrated in.
Yeah.
They are...
And so the process is, so I encourage everybody, go to costplusdrugs.com. If you take any generic medications or any brand that has a generic, you put in the drug, you look at the price, right? And if you're saving money, then you go to your doctor and you say, okay, prescribe using Cost Plus. When you go to the website and you see that you want to buy a drug, you set up an account. It gives you the codes to give to the doctor, and then when they actually prescribe it, they put the codes in Epic, and we ship
They
you
have
your
a tendency to go for the brand name drugs, correct?
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily.
So,
okay. I wanted you to talk about brand name drugs because it makes up a smaller share of prescriptions, but it's more the most accounted for most of the cost. Cost plus drugs impact is limited, I think, because it doesn't address the brand name drugs. Do you need to? Because these need to take 20 years to get out of.
Remember, we've only been doing this 7 months.
Right. Well, please do everything right.
Yeah, and so yes, that's what I did all morning, talking to different manufacturers for us to add brand name drugs. And so we're out there trying to look, our mission is to be the low-cost provider of every medication that we're legally able to sell.
And what is the incentive for brand name drugs to do this with you?
Because it's interesting that the manufacturers get a really bad rap that they don't deserve. So they
deserve it a little bit.
A lot less than you think.
Okay.
And I'd be the first, you know me.
Well, you
I'm
said
the first.
Martin, what's that?
Shkreli.
Shkreli is the one that inspired you in a lot of
Yeah, in some respects, it's like if he could jack things up 1,500% or whatever it was, why can't we cut it?
Yeah.
Right? Because it shows there's pricing fungibility there. But the brand name, so if you look at manufacturers, pick any drug, and they have to, the pharmacy benefit managers are telling them, look, we've got this little side deal we're going to create. Your drug, I want you to set the retail price at $1,000.
Which it's not, doesn't need to be.
It's just a retail price, right? And then I'm going to go to the government, and I'm going to tell the government, oh, we're such great negotiators. I'm giving you 30% off that retail price. Then I can sell it to the government at $700. Then I'm going to go to the insurance companies and say, don't tell the government, but we're going to sell it to you at 40%. And then they go to the manufacturers and say, look, I just did deals with the government and these huge insurance companies. You're going to sell it to me $20, right? But that's going to be my net cost. I'm going to let you sell it to me at $600, right? But then after I pay you $600, you're going to take 480 or 580 of that
and give it back to me.
And give it back to me in a rebate. And so all these distortions, you know, the brand name manufacturers have participated, but they kind of got stuck, right? Like I mentioned, the doorman analogy, these PBMs are the gatekeepers to the drugs that the insurance companies will approve and the government will accept. And so the manufacturers have no choice. In comes cost plus drugs for brand drugs and says, look, we're just blowing up, right? We're adding thousands and thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of patients in a day. And these people are expecting transparency and they're expecting lower prices. If you sell through us, you can even charge us more than you charge the pharmacy benefit manager. Instead of 20, make it 30, right? So you're making more money. We're going to mark it up 15%. So it's going to be, you know, $34.50 plus $3 handling and $5 shipping, right? So $42.50. So that drug can, once we get those deals done, those drugs can go from $600 or $700 to $42.50. And that's happened with generics, and we're going to make it happen with brands. It's not going to happen overnight.
Which brand? What would be the thing that would change?
Well, insulin, obviously.
Right. So that was so many people when I asked on Twitter what I should ask, insulin was the very.
So we're having conversations. The challenge isn't whether or not the manufacturers want to sell to us. The challenge is the MFN contracts that they have with the pharmacy benefit managers, and how can we work through that? So, you know, we may have to do an OEM version. We've literally gone out and created our own version, but it's super expensive to manufacture. You know, so hopefully we'll be able to work out deals with them. And, you know, if I was a betting man, I'd say yes. I just don't know if it's this year, next year, or the year after.
But insulin being the most important one.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, because it's crazy. You know, you can look at some people will spend $300, $400, $500, $900 for a vial of insulin. That's insane, right? And, you know, even when you look at the Inflation Reduction Act, they were trying to set a $35 copay, which is great for patients, absolutely great, but it did nothing to impact the pricing of insulin itself.
Right, the other side, the cost.
Right,
the government. So the government's subsidizing.
To anybody, insurance companies, everybody. So they all play that game. So if we can get this deal done, it'll be cost plus or something resembling it, because with insulin, you have to ship it in a cold chain, so it's a little different.
So you're making things, right, in Dallas. What drugs are you making there?
Sterile injectables right now. So we're not, it'll be at the end of the year, because we got pushed back a little because of the storms. But what happens a lot of times, even with generic injectables, hospitals run out of them. And so we've created this robotics-based factory that we can set up a manufacturing run in 4 hours. So if there's a shortage for an injectable in Columbus, Ohio at Children's Hospital and they need X, give us 4 hours, we can make a year's worth, right? Then we'll make that, and then if somebody here in LA, Cedar Sinai says, okay, we need Y, we can turn around and make that. And we'll start there, and it's a scalable robotics-based operation.
In Dallas, in the United States.
Yeah, in the United States.
You think you can make, because a lot of drugs are not made in the United States, correct?
Yeah, a lot of them aren't, but we will.
We will, okay. So when you're, and that is already up and running, correct?
Well, it's being built now. It was supposed to be done in November, but it's probably going to be December now.
December. So one of the things that a lot of people wrote me is, when are you going to get into testing?
Into what?
Testing.
Testing what?
Anything. Other services, med tech, like X-rays.
You're talking about other healthcare things.
And one woman wrote me asthmatic inhalers. She went from a $25 copay to $350 for 3 months.
Yeah, those are all things that we're trying to now. Again, it's a process. So what happened when we originally went in, it's the reason why I put my name on the company, because I've never put my name on a company ever. And it was like, okay, you guys are full of shit. You're just one more company saying you're going to change this, 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 and this. And what makes you any different? And so I would walk in, so they knew that there was a check available, right? So they knew there was money there, and they knew I had a platform to promote it. And so now that we've got a base of a lot of patients, and that number—
How many patients?
We should, by the time I get back, we should hopefully be past 1 million patients in 7 months. And adding, anywhere on a weekend day, 2,000 to 10,000 plus.
So you would add X-rays or other things?
No. So what we would do with the inhalers and things, because there's certain businesses I can't be in, right? And so there's so many drugs, and there's new ones being created, like you talked about innovation in the intro. There's new ones being created all the time. There's enough to keep us busy. But by adding transparency to the cost of medications, you start opening the kimono on healthcare, so that when an insurance company comes along and says, well, the cost of this med and this med had gone up because we convinced the manufacturer of this brand to go from $1,000 wholesale cost to $1,100, right? So we're raising your premiums. No, right? Here's what it costs for these medications. And because we're being transparent, when a lot of these really expensive drugs come along, right? The specialty drugs that are going to cost $60,000, $3 million, right? If we can walk in and maybe sell them, maybe not sell them, but start introducing the transparency to it, because some of those drugs are worth it, right? We've demonized, the pharmacy benefit managers have done such a phenomenal job of turning all manufacturers into Hillary Clinton, right? Anything that they put out, we don't trust, right? And it's just back-ass half-words. And so if we can add some transparency and trust, then we can say, okay, is this drug worth it? Because if it cost you $60,000 or even $5 million, but the drug you would have had to take was costing you $500,000 a year, and you were going to take it for the rest of your life, maybe that's not a bad price.
So speaking of services, Amazon buying One Medical, if it goes through, how do you look at what that means?
I mean, I look at Amazon and say their margin is my opportunity.
Meaning? Explain it.
That they're a big company, and in healthcare, particularly with medications, it's hard to be lean and mean, and that's what we are. And so in terms of them getting into services, I think it's great, right? And I think you've got to put on—
And they've been in pharmacy.
But you've got to put on a different hat if you're Amazon, because they have so many employees, they can be their own customer and it can be worthwhile. And
they were, in fact.
And so if One Medical, they were the biggest customer, and you buy the company and it saves you money and you can extend it out, why wouldn't you?
And how do you think they're going to do in this? People are worried?
I don't know. The services business, again, so we look at healthcare in other countries and we say, why are they able to do it and we're not? And why is it so much more cost effective with better results? And there's just a single word: transparency, right? So the government comes in and says, we're going to try to do A, B, and C, but they have no base of data to work from, right? It's all guesswork. And that's what we're trying to change in terms of Amazon and others. They'll buy the companies to see what the actual costs are, and I think be able to do a better job, because they can afford to take risks and do what they do.
Right.
I mean, they're great at productizing things that they introduce internally.
Right, which it's fine with logistics, but it's a little different, because some of the healthcare people are like, you can't make it as efficient as delivering paper towels.
No, you can't at the same time, but logistics still comes down to results, right? If people aren't getting results, they're not going to go there. If your packages don't show up,
Right.
You're not going to order. And so,
Well, they just replace it in 14 seconds.
well, exactly right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and
You can't do that with,
without-
say,
Yeah, your
liver.
or yeah, your diet.
Maybe
your
they
insulin,
can. Maybe
your insulin, right? So,
Right.
there's different set of consequences.
Were you surprised they moved into that?
No, not at all. No.
Not at all.
Like I said, look, if I had 2 million plus employees and my cost of caring for those employees was 6 billion and I could buy this company for 3 billion and cut my operation enough to make it worthwhile,
Why not?
everything else is gravy.
Right, right. So one of the things that people are thinking that you pick prescription drugs, is this like writing a book to run for president?
You always ask me that and I give you the same answer.
Yeah, I know that. I always ask you.
No.
Many people ask me if you're running for president.
No, the answer is no.
Because?
Same answer. I wouldn't put my kids through it. I mean, it's insane. And I think I can have more impact outside.
Right. What would it take for you to run? Is there anything that would, because you thought about it. I'm looking for another job. So.
Okay, you do code another 37 years and I'll run.
That would be so sad and pathetic. But why not, though? Why not? I mean, there has been another show host that has been
And you're
president.
comparing me to him?
No. I would never do that, Mark. I like you.
Thank you. Why? I mean, there's plenty of more qualified candidates. The problem isn't the candidates. The problem is the process and the process of elections and the process of picking candidates. It's not like, the system we have right now is horrible at picking candidates. I mean, you've seen me get involved with ranked choice voting and comparables. I'm a big fan of that. We saw what happened in Alaska and the impact there. I'd rather work at dismembering the parties than running for president because I think that has a longer, more beneficial impact.
And through ranked choice voting and other things.
Yeah, and other things
So
like that,
speaking of which, we just have a few more minutes. I want to get to some other things. Texas is where you live.
Yeah.
How are you feeling about Texas right now and working
It's
there?
hot,
Okay. All right.
rainy.
Permitless carry,
politicians
banning abortion, failed
yeah,
grid.
politicians are crazy. There's no question about it. And the politicians in Texas know they're crazy. But I think now, especially after Roe, women are stepping up. Why don't you start a party of nothing but women?
Nothing but women?
Seriously.
Okay.
Seriously. I
Yeah.
mean, women.
Well, women don't always agree on everything, but
No, I'm not saying everybody agrees. That's not the issue, right? The issue is we need a better way, and we're not going to get ranked choice voting immediately, but we have so much power, so much strength, so much momentum with women. You don't need guys who look like me by a long shot.
Right.
I mean, women are going to
we're
have.
having on Amy Klobuchar next, so I'll ask her about that. But go ahead.
Well, she's a Democrat. She's not going to do anything to impact her power base.
Right.
Right? I mean, now if you can get her.
In Texas, you mean become a Republican?
No, I'm just saying in general, right? And I've talked to other female friends. It's just like, why don't you guys start your own party? Don't let me in, right? Take my money, but don't let me in, And it's just like so much more can happen, and you can't do the same thing all the time and expect different results.
Right, but it's become more. I mean, look what happened with Liz Cheney, with one of the most conservative people on the planet, has gotten thrown out of a party.
What does that tell you? That the system is fucked up.
Yes.
And we need to do it differently.
So is there anything you would do to fix if you were approaching it like pharmacy drug prices? Is there anything?
Yeah, you just like, okay, so I looked at the existing system in pharmacy. It's completely distorted. It's self-serving. Everybody with the money gets to control everybody else who gives them money. Exactly like politics. It's the exact same thing, right?
So who's the benefit managers?
The pharmacy benefit managers are Act Blue and the equivalent on the red side. Everybody just takes your money in little chunks until all of a sudden it adds up. And because you give them these little chunks of money, you have to root for your team, right? Work on leave your party, vote on the issues that are important to you, give money to the issue or participate with the issue instead of the political side. Politics is the root of the evil. We can't blame Citizens United anymore. That was ages ago, right? People have got to do things differently, and we still have too much of, hey, it's my side, right? Democrats rally together, right? If we get enough, Stacey Abrams, let's register everybody, which is great. There's nothing wrong with that, but it's all part of the power structure, and then the Republicans do the same thing. And so you have these two huge power bases, that have all the power. That is the problem.
Were you worried about some of the more with banning abortion in Texas,
Yes.
for example?
Yeah, of course.
You're still participating in the system, though? Who are you voting for governor of Texas?
I don't know. It's not going to be Abbott, but I'm not necessarily a Beto fan either.
Okay.
I mean, it might be the lesser of two evils, because he's just, look, and that's maybe he doesn't knock against Beto as well, but they're just politicians.
Right.
They say what needs to be said to the people that want to hear it at the time that they think they will get them a vote.
Okay.
They're not problem solvers.
All right, I'm going to move on to a couple more things very quickly. No problem. I know you don't like talking about politics. Crypto. Last time we talked, you were pretty positive. You had a whole, you're being sued around Voyager Digital, which you promised was not a problem. You dabbled in NFTs. What's your point of view right now?
It's the same. Crypto has a place for sure. But what's missing is new applications. Just like in the early days of the internet, we say, oh, well, the internet's old and boring, right? Because we haven't seen anything new. And it really took for mobile to come along to really propel it going forward. And we don't have that right now for crypto. So it's kind of boring, and it's just going to stay boring with DeFi and NFTs as collectibles and maybe some other little things coming along
So
until
it doesn't
something
seem
new.
to interest you.
No, I'm still very interested and still investing, but it's just early.
What else are you interested in? You interested in neutral food? You would put
Yeah,
some
no,
money-
I mean, I invest in a lot of healthy options, a lot of ecologically friendly options, insect-based food, you name it. You just never know what is going to trigger something that changes everything.
And a couple more things. You mentioned Shark Tank. How do you invigorate this generation? Do you feel that it's still innovation is still
Gen Z?
Yeah.
I love Gen Z. I mean, I think they're entrepreneurial at heart. They're coming up with solutions. Let's get back to a bigger question. What's the definition of capitalism? Because I think my generation always looked at it as make as much money as you can. That's capitalism. I think Gen Z looks at it and says, a capitalist system gives me an opportunity to have an impact the way I want to have an impact. The doors are open for me as an entrepreneur to walk through and make the changes I want to make. And I think that's the way Gen Z approaches it. When companies run by young entrepreneurs come on Shark Tank, they always have a mission. Always. There's also always some social construct to it. And to me, that's critical. That's important.
And you think that's the direction now? 'Cause
Oh,
it
yeah.
felt like the first for a long time now.
No, I think for sure. Every kid's a brand. My son's 12, about to turn 13. He's counting down the days for Snapchat and Instagram, right? And he's already a brand. He already knows who he wants to show, what he's not going to show, because everything that he touches, everything that he uses represents him, because whether it's him or his friends taking a picture, it's going to show, it's going to define him in some respects forever.
Interesting. My son refuses to get on social media, although he's
Lucky.
now dating a girl who loves Instagram, so it's going to be interesting.
He's going to be there no matter what.
He just was on Instagram the other day, so I feel it's love. But he hates social media. He's like, Mom, you're a Sharon, stop it. So a couple last questions. Will you buy a baseball team? Pittsburgh Pirates
No.
save us from the hellscape.
No.
They want, no.
No interest.
That was the person asking.
Okay.
Inequality is something you and I talked about a lot. You and I discussed the wealth tax. You had a whole argument. You wanted to sit down with Elizabeth Warren and have it.
Let's put it
set
this
to-
way. If there's a wealth tax, particularly on mark-to-market for unsold assets, there would be no cost-plus drugs.
Because?
I'd have to save up cash. It's cost me a shitload of money to do this. And I have to take a lot of risk. I mean, big guys can come in and just crush me, and I have to be ready to deal with that. And you're talking hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars. And I don't care. I mean, at least maybe there's some, but that's just not sitting in the bank waiting, to pay taxes on. And so there would be no cost-plus drugs if there was a wealth tax with mark-to-market.
Is there a smarter way to tax the wealthy better? And
There's a lot. Look, I was all for stock buyback taxes because for a lot of reasons there. I don't have, the difference between me paying 37 and 40%, I don't care, right? I don't mind being taxed more. I wrote a blog 20 years ago saying it's the most patriotic thing you can do after military service is pay your taxes, because that's what allows everybody, to live and to prosper. But yeah, the idea of just soak the rich, billionaire tears that sell that cup, screw you, Elizabeth Warren. You're everything wrong with politics.
Okay. Okay then. All right. So last question. This is from Twitter, actually. Best day of your life other than meeting Kara Swisher?
That's a hard
I know
one.
it is. It really was the best day of your life. It was. Let's be
Always
honest.
is.
Magic moment.
My kids, obviously, but outside of family, I don't know. I'm just one of these guys. I just try to, it sounds corny, but like I see a blue sky, I look up and say thank you. You know, it sounds stupid and corny, but every day, you know.
Mark.
Seriously.
Killing me.
Seriously.
Yeah.
Other
I
than
like
Kara
fuck you,
Swisher.
Elizabeth Warren. Anyway.
I know, I'm going to see that everywhere, but that's how I feel.
You just did it. Okay, that's fine. Go ahead. Who else do you want to say fuck you to?
Nah, I'll leave it at that.
All right, okay. Questions from the audience, please. And anyone can ask sports questions, but not Kara Swisher. Go ahead. Where's a question?
Hey, Kara.
Oh, there you are, Jeff. Yes, go to the microphone. That's my brother, Dr. Brother.
It's your brother?
Yeah, it's my brother.
Oh, wow.
There's my mother. It's her birthday right there.
Did you say happy birthday to Lucky yet?
Yes, she's over there. Happy birthday, Mom.
Happy birthday, Lucky.
Yeah, I don't want to say how old she is because she'll get mad at me. So, you know, you talked Texas, you talked women, you talked about abortion. Misoprostol is a medication, of course, which has been politicized. In the state of Texas, theoretically, anybody who orders that medication from you could be prosecuted under Texas
It's
law.
an abortion drug.
It's a secondary drug. For
Yeah,
the
we're
abortion
not
drug.
eligible to sell it yet because there's a whole process to go through.
Yeah.
So we can't sell it, but we do sell birth control. We sell the morning after pill. You know, our birth control pricing, I think, is $6, I think, as opposed to $26 normally. So everything related to healthcare for women, we try to sell as much as we can.
Are you worried about the implications?
No.
What about this drug that Jeff's talking about?
Yeah, I mean, there's multiple processes we have to go through before we can do it. And we haven't started it yet, but it's something we've certainly started to review.
But birth control pills specifically can be considered by some of these states as a abortion medication.
Let them come after me.
All right, that's good. Thank you.
Lisa?
Hey, Mark. My name's Lisa Dickey. You're a pretty outspoken guy and
Only
tend
to
to not be
Elizabeth Warren.
shy. And I've looked around and I haven't seen your opinion on a particular issue I'm very curious about. You talked in 2013, you floated the idea about possibly drafting Brittney Griner for the Mavericks. Brittney's been held for 6 months now in Russia, and I'm wondering what your thoughts are about
It's
that.
awful, obviously, right? And it's, you know, the NBA is doing all we can to try to get her out. As much influence as we can have, we certainly have tried to get her out.
Can you talk about what that is, though? What does that mean?
Honestly, I don't know all the details. I mean, in our meetings, you know, they're talking about which politicians they talk to, which ambassador, et cetera. But I honestly, you know, don't have anything specific to tell you. Otherwise, I would.
All right, thanks.
All right, back there.
Me? Mark, Jeff
Oh,
Berman.
just a sec. And then you're next. Go ahead.
Thank you for all the great stuff you do. So appreciative. But then I hear you talk about what's going on in Texas right now. And you've got one party that's defined itself as anti-democracy, anti-human rights, anti-women rights, and another party that's pro-democracy, pro-human rights, pro-women's rights. How can you not take a position in favor of Beto O'Rourke? I appreciate you want to blow up the
Because
system,
I vote
but
for
now-
candidates. I vote for candidates, and I vote for issues. I don't vote for parties.
But
right?
those
The
are the
fact that
issues.
there's no such thing as a homogenous party, right? Yet they try to pretend that they are. And if you don't follow along in their way, like everybody wants to clap, how can you compare the two? Right? That in and of itself is a big part of the problem. When you point at the other party and say the Republicans, when they point and say the Democrats, we solve nothing, we accomplish nothing. All we do is divide people even more. If you want to talk about a specific issue, what is Beto doing about Brittney? You know, what is Abbott doing about X? Great, let's talk about that. But the day I start, you know, hopefully I'll never find myself being a hypocrite and saying, well, all Republicans this, all Democrats that, because that's why we need ranked choice voting. Because then we can get the politicians that we think are the best as opposed to the ones that just work their way up through the system.
So they have to be in the thrall of Trump,
Yeah.
even if they don't believe it. One of the most remarkable things is, if you are in I live in Washington right now, the people that are the most vehement for Trump will sidle up to at a party and go, you know, I hate him. And then I want to kick him in the teeth, you know. And they do, I have to, I must.
You know, and that's
really
because of the power that's associated with each party. You know, Beto cannot, you know, so look at it this way. Let's just say Beto is the best candidate ever. He is everything everybody hoped to be. Yet he wouldn't run as an independent. right? And even if there are issues he disagrees with that are part of what the Democratic Party stands for, he wouldn't talk against them, right? Because he needs that power base. He needs that source of income. To me, that is a fundamental wrong that is screwing up this country. So if we want to talk about individual issues, I've had no problem doing so, right? But if you want to talk about one party versus another, fuck them both.
And by the way, I'm with you. We need massive change, and we've got a system that's completely screwed. But right now, it's a stark choice. It's A or B. So the question is, why
it's not,
can't
though.
you take
Look, it's about the issues and what can you do to solve the issues, right? I can vote for whoever I want and relate it to healthcare, and I have. How's that worked out?
Okay, last question, very quick.
That was such a good question. So, trying to make it a little bit more entertaining, but related to your ownership in sports. So, what's your view on esports and where the entertainment fields are going?
Esports have been a huge disappointment, right? In 2015, I thought they really were on their way to do really, really well, but teams don't make money. You know, it really has become a geographically based sport where, you know, in Asia and Eastern Asia, that's the base, particularly with League of Legends, and everything else is just about branding. Mm-hmm. You know, teams don't make their money from participation, and when I look at my son's 13, my daughter's 16, you know, back 7 years ago when they were 6 and 9, I thought, okay, they'd eventually get into esports. Now they still play games, they'll game, but they just are not into esports. They're not getting excited about the teams. We have an NBA 2K team, marginally, you know, viewed, marginal interest. I just think it's just not a good business and really is underperformed.
Yeah, we know something's there, but no one knows how to harness it. That's a good point.
Yeah.
Well, if no one knows how to harness it, maybe there's a reason.
Yeah.
He was really into it, I remember.
No, I still like it, right? I pay attention to it, but
Super quick, because we're running late.
Steve Krause with U.S. Venture Partners, but I'm not going to talk about venture at all. My question is about college sports. What do you think about what's happening with college sports and money, NIL, and the Alston case, and what it's going to do to the college sports as we know today?
so it's no longer.
How can you fix it?
Yeah, there's nothing to fix. It's going in the right direction, right? I mean,
For how many of the universities and colleges, though?
how many in the universities and the colleges was it good for before, right? And football was SEC, and there's SEC and there's everybody else, you know?
That's how it's become. Anyway,
Well, and it's going to become more extreme, but at least the kids are making some money off of it. You know, there are, you know, volleyball and lacrosse players that are making $1,000, $2,000 a year. You know, that's great. That's great for non-rev sports. That never would have happened. So put aside the big money in football and, you know, one kid making $1 million, multiple others making hundreds of thousands, more power to them. You know, and I think at some point, at least, you know, the money will get even bigger and the kids will have more power. And you know what else is happening? We're seeing basketball players stay in school because there's a risk associated with going pro, where in the past they would have said, okay, you know, I'll just go pro as a sophomore. We'll see if I make it. If not, I'll play overseas. Now they're saying, I'll stay in school. I'll stay 4 years because I'll make a whole lot more money being in school than going pro. How can that be a negative?
Well, there's many other sports other than basketball.
Well,
and football
using that as an
that don't
example,
make-
but the other sports got no money whatsoever, right? If you were a women's volleyball player, when were you ever going to make a nickel from volleyball?
I'd love to take offline with you on this one
Okay.
because it's very complicated.
All right, great. Mark, thank you.
Thank you. That was fun.
Thank you.